This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for this first edition of CBN NewsWatch for Wednesday, June 19th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, President Donald Trump makes his re-election campaign official. The gridlock in Washington over the southern border. VidAngel faces a huge loss in its battle with Hollywood, and digging the Bible in the Holy Land. All those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We want to begin, though, with President Donald Trump kicking off his 2020 election bid in the battleground state of Florida. It was a major rally packed with thousands of supporters as the president made his case for a second term. The enthusiastic crowd of Trump supporters gathered in downtown Orlando for the president's official kickoff campaign, many waiting in line 40 hours to get a seat inside the 20,000-seat Amway Convention Center. Some even camped out in tents before the rally even started. During his hour-and-a-half speech, the president touted his list of accomplishments, such as the economy and foreign policy. He also repeated a familiar campaign promise from 2016.
And we are building the wall. We're going to have over 400 miles of wall built by the end of next year.
And CBN News reporter Charlene Aaron has been following this story for us and joins us now with more. So the president talked about what he's been able to do and get done as president. You can tell us more about the president's speech, though, last night. What can you tell us?
Absolutely, Ephraim. He did highlight his successes in foreign policy, in particular, as we mentioned, closer relations with Israel and recognizing the true capital of Israel and the opening of the American embassy in Jerusalem. Remember, that was huge. And he also talked briefly about some of his Democratic rivals, calling them radicals out to destroy the country. He also says that he's been under assault from the very first day of his presidency by a fake news media and an illegal witch hunt that tried to keep him and his supporters down. He also accused his critics of un-American conduct.
Now, his official kickoff rally was held in Florida, a state that's a must-win for the president if he is to be reelected. What's his plan moving forward?
It is definitely huge. Florida is definitely a must-win. Both President Trump and his Democratic opponents have been mobilizing a fierce and expensive battle there in Florida, a state that he has visited more than any other, and that's just how important it is. And a new poll shows Joe Biden leading Trump by 9 points in Florida and Bernie Sanders up by 6. So it is very, very important.
All right. It's a long race we'll be watching.
Long way we'll be watching.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Well, more than that poll, even though Trump kicked off his campaign in Florida, a new poll shows he may have work to do there. A Quinnipiac University survey showed voters in the Sunshine State favor Democratic presidential hopeful, as you heard, Joe Biden over President Trump, 50 to 41%. Among independent voters, the numbers are 54 to 32% for Biden. President Trump also trails Biden in Florida among women, African American, and Hispanics. That is according to the poll. Pollster Peter Brown with Quinnipiac says Florida Democrats hope these early numbers are a sign the Republican winning streak in their state is coming to an end. Border security and building a wall were part of the president's kickoff campaign speech last night, as we just reported. The nation remains deeply divided over what to do about the crisis at the border. Our Abigail Robertson talked with Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs about the issue and the gridlock that's been in Congress over it.
Who are pro-abortion, they will tell you that it's health care. And so we're trying to get it out and prevent you from being able to take that as a medical deduction. I mean, that's really what it's all about, because it's not health care. And so you shouldn't get the same tax treatment that you get for every other medical expense that you have for abortion.
And along those lines, what do you think about the Democrat push this week to remove the Hyde Amendment language from budget bills?
Well, I'm disgusted by it, quite frankly. I don't know if you saw any of the debate on issues surrounding abortion this week. They were sometimes very gruesome and beneath the dignity that you would expect to see in Congress, in my opinion. And I thank goodness for Congress, because I mean the U.S. Senate, because they will not pass a bill that has that in there, that removal of the Hyde Amendment. And the president has already vowed that he's going to veto something like that. So it really bugs the heck out of me, if you want the truth.
Would you like to see Robert Mueller testify?
Yeah, oh yes, I would. There's a lot of questions to ask Mr. Mueller. Everything from the origins of his team, their makeup, their biases that they have, that we know that they had, to additional information that we have found over time, and including all the way back to the FISA warrants, all the way back to how many times was George Papadopoulos spied on and Carter Page spied on, and by whom? And did he look at that? And we believe he looked at it, but he didn't put it out. And I think we'd also like to talk about, in my opinion, the quite frankly unprofessional way that he handled Volume 2, which would be the obstruction of justice. Because quite frankly, if you or I, and people, my colleagues on the other side keep saying, let's treat this as if the president's any other citizen. I'm all for that, because any other citizen, if you were looking at and they decided there's a no bill, in other words, they're not going to take an indictment on it, the world would not even know about it. But what he did is he basically wrote a almost 200-page screed against President Trump. That's a problem. I believe that they are going to get to impeachment. I think that that's where they're going to go. I think Nancy Pelosi is trying to do all she can to mollify them and yet satisfy them at the same time. You know, it's kind of keep them in check, but they're not going to stay there. And when that happens, we know already almost 2/3 of the country say, leave it alone, move on, do not impeach, that's a bad idea. And if you look at unaffiliated voters, polling regarding unaffiliated voters, it's almost 70% say, don't do that. And it's going to hurt them, I think.
Do you have any hope in this really partisan climate on the Hill right now that there will be any bipartisan, potentially an infrastructure bill or any legislation that both parties come together on?
I'm trying to be hopeful here. I don't think you're going to see an infrastructure bill. I think it's too late at this point. Nobody wants to have another shutdown. You might get there. I think you're going to see a CR, maybe a series of continuing resolutions. Let me explain what CR is. Those are short-term spending bills, and Congress does those because it can't seem to get its act together to pass a budget. With regard to immigration, you know, we can't even get them to give the humanitarian dollars that the president has asked in a humanitarian disaster on the border. And here's the way to think of it: you've got Border Patrol has beds for 4,000 people roughly, maybe as high as 5,000, but really it's closer to 4,000 according to the director's report. But they're holding 19,000 people. You can imagine the conditions, and many of them are in southern Arizona where it's hot, and they're not in an air-conditioned facility. They're in basically parking lots with awnings and big swamp coolers. It's going to get hotter and hotter there. We need that money to provide detention beds, and we can't get them to provide that money. So I am really discouraged by that.
Acting Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan will not be moving forward in his confirmation process. The president made the announcement in a tweet yesterday, saying Shanahan will instead be focusing on devoting more time to his family. The current Secretary of Army, Mark Esper, will replace Shanahan. The position has not been filled permanently since General James Mattis retired in January following policy differences with the president. The streaming service VidAngel has been ordered to pay more than $62 million to 4 Hollywood film studios. VidAngel allows users to filter explicit content from movies such as sex, violence, and bad language in feature films. A judge ruled Monday the company violated 4 Hollywood studios' copyright laws by streaming the filtered versions of their movies. VidAngels and its supporters say they aren't doing anything wrong.
You're not pirating content. You've already paid for it. You've already purchased it either through a subscription to a streaming service or you know, through your Amazon Prime account, through your Netflix account. You've already paid for the content. The studios already received their money. All you're doing is putting it through a second streaming service that filters out the content that you don't want. So the claim of piracy, I think, is really kind of far-fetched.
VidAngel does plan to appeal that ruling. A teacher kicks out a student from class for not being, quote, inclusive in a gender discussion, and the student recorded that encounter. He told his teacher he stated something he believed and got kicked out for it when he went on to say he wasn't discriminating, but simply stating there are only 2 genders and anything else is a personal identification. Now you can read the full story and watch the entire video at cbnnews.com. Coming up, the risk a critical fault line in the Pacific Northwest could pose to the region. Some even believe it could trigger an earthquake like nothing ever seen before in our country. Stay with us.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life, life to the fullest. Life in your family, life in your finances, life in your body, mind, and spirit, life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com. Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment, you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place, from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
A powerful earthquake jolted northwestern Japan late Tuesday, causing minor injuries to 21 people and a brief evacuation of coastal homes until the risk of a tsunami passed. There were no reports of serious damage from the magnitude 6.7 quake. Minor sea level changes were detected by several coastal cities, but the tsunami warning was lifted after about 2.5 hours. America's West Coast is no stranger to earthquakes, but a fault line in the Pacific Northwest could pose a huge threat to the region and potentially trigger the biggest quake ever to hit America. Our Paul Strand has the story now from Washington State.
The fault line runs up the entire coast of Oregon and Washington that someday could cause a more devastating earthquake than anything ever predicted along California's infamous San Andreas Fault. It's called the Cascadia Subduction Zone and sits right on the ring of fire that rims the Pacific Ocean. It'll eventually send powerful ground-shredding shakes through much or all of the land between the coast and the Cascade Mountain Range.
It'll be spread from Canada to California, over 800 miles.
Leading Cascadia quake expert Chris Goldfinger says much of the building in this area happened before people knew it's a quake zone.
The whole Pacific Northwest is very, very fragile. Essentially, our cities are sort of turn-of-the-century cities built on a time bomb.
If it should hit Seattle at a monstrous 9 or higher on the Richter scale, FEMA's regional planner points to just one of many frightening results.
When the skyscrapers start swaying, well, a lot of them are designed to have their windows pop out. There'll be 3 feet of broken glass on the roads.
Matt Caesar didn't want to discuss death toll numbers, but it's clear.
Many people will lose their lives, unfortunately.
These attractive hillsides are filled with many homes that would come tumbling down. And because there's so much water, another big problem exists, like in Seattle.
Seattle was built on fill, and that doesn't do well during disasters.
So you have the earthquake shaking, and then you have the ground basically just kind of liquefying out from under the buildings.
So the structures on top of it will find they're on ground that's suddenly moving side to side, up and down. Hard to survive something like that. And gas lines, water lines, sewage lines will all be breaking. There'll be much flooding, and lots of fires.
I was in Katrina, the water was boiling with fire because the gas lines were ruptured where it flooded, and then it ignites, so the water is literally on fire.
Highways and roadways will buckle, overpasses crumble, bridges like those connecting Portland's 2 sides and Oregon to Washington would come tumbling down.
And so you'll have the major highways blocked every couple of miles by collapsed bridges.
The area is rich in hydroelectric power, but many of the lines and towers bringing it in will fall. Getting all these things restored could take a long, long time.
Months in some areas years.
Then comes the topper. The quake would cause a tsunami so large it would wipe out anything not on high enough ground. The tsunami that follows is going to come rushing in here and be anywhere from 20 to 40, 60, 80 feet deep maybe, and most of the structures that have survived the quake are going to be smashed into by a wall of water. And it doesn't end there. The next one could be even higher, the next wave after that even higher. Much of Seaside, Oregon is almost eye level with the ocean. Planning manager Kevin Couples knows just about all the area's schools would be right in the tsunami zone. That's why he's really pleased residents recently voted for funding to move the schools and kids to higher ground.
So now they're basically going to be outside the inundation zone and on stable ground.
But that kind of worst-case planning is unfortunately rare because this area has been strangely quiet for so long when it comes to quakes.
The Ring of Fire, you can see all these other places having this seismic activity, and then there's this one void in our area that's not.
As he campaigns for smarter building and planning in this region, Goldfinger says he gets every kind of reaction.
Everywhere from I'm going to pick up my family and move to the Midwest to meh.
As one friend who lives right by the ocean said to him,
if a tsunami gets me, I've had a good life.
Resistance mainly comes from those who don't want to spend the necessary dollars to retrofit old buildings, or from areas scared to lose tourist dollars.
They don't want people to be afraid to go to the coast because they've heard about this earthquake thing. And so that's what happens when economics meets Mother Nature.
Recent discoveries show these killer Cascadia quakes hit on average 243 to roughly 500 years apart. Well, it's been 318 years since the last one, so parts of the region are way overdue. Though again, we're talking averages, so no one knows when the next will hit. Only that for sure, sooner or later, it shall.
We could have it literally right now and we'd be looking around going, okay, I guess this is it.
Someday it's going to happen, and that could be 15 minutes from now, or that could be years down the road.
Caesar is sorry for reports that could panic the population, but he's at least grateful they're getting folks to talk and prepare.
So it is an important thing to have these conversations with your kids and family.
He points out in a region of 7 million potential victims, it's quite likely rescuers won't be able to get to you, so you'll need to rescue yourself.
At some point, you got to look and say, I've got to take care of myself, take care of my family, prepare yourself.
Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Seattle.
Still ahead, how archaeology and digging up history in the Holy Land is leading to some biblically significant finds. Stay with us.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
More and more excavations in Israel are validating the Bible. As Chris Mitchell now reports, one dig has uncovered one of the Old Testament's most important sites.
You're looking at the heart of biblical Israel, along the route known as the Way of the Patriarchs. This is ancient Shiloh, the place where the Bible says Joshua divided the promised land between the 12 tribes, and where the tabernacle of the Lord stood, for more than 300 years.
Welcome to ancient Shiloh. This is the first capital of ancient Israel, and it's a sacred spot because the Mishkan was here, the tabernacle where people came to connect with God.
Scott Stripling directs the excavation here, and along with dozens of volunteers, they're digging into history.
We're dealing with real people, real places, real events. This is not mythology. The coins that we excavated today, we're talking about coins of Herod the Great, Pontius Pilate, Festus, Felix, Agrippa I, Agrippa II. The Bible talks about these people. We've got the image right there.
That image includes a fortified wall built by the Canaanites. They're finding a treasure trove of artifacts, including coins and 2,000 pieces of pottery a day.
Now this one was from yesterday. It's been washed already, so you see the same form right out of the ground and yesterday, and these are those handles from the stone vessels. Remember Jesus' first miracle at Cana, they were stone jars full of water. That's that ritual purity culture of the first century.
An archaeologist looks at these shards as a fine timepiece.
Just like your great-grandmother's pottery is different from your pottery that you're using today, and once we learn the pottery, then we can use it as our primary means of dating.
Stripling says literally digging into the Bible can change your life.
You can read the Bible, you can walk the Bible, but the ultimate is to dig the Bible. You know, when we actually get into the soil, like these students from Lee University, they're literally, it's under their fingernails and in their nose and their mouth and their ears, and they're exposing this ancient culture. It becomes one with you. And sort of like we came out of the soil, and as we dig into this soil, we connect with God and with each other, I think, in a very important way.
I love getting my hands dirty. I love digging in the dirt. It's my favorite thing.
People from all ages man the dig, with the main drivers being students like Abigail.
It's tiring and exhausting, but it's really rewarding. It's exciting to find ancient things that have been laying in the dirt just waiting for us for thousands of years.
She says the Bible comes alive in the dirt.
I read the Bible totally differently than I did before I came here, and when I read the Bible, I know the places, I know what's going on, I understand it more deeply, especially where previous archaeologists have claimed that the archaeology disproves the Bible, but when we dig here, we find that everything matches. You read it in the Bible, you dig in the dirt, and there it is.
Archaeology doesn't set out to prove or disprove the Bible. What we want to do is to illuminate the biblical text, the background of the text. So to set it in a real-world culture, to what we call verisimilitude. So we get an ancient literary description. Now we have a material culture that matches that. Chris, you're sitting where Samuel and Eli and Hannah and these people that we have read about, they came just like us, needing answers, needing to connect with God, needing forgiveness.
He says they dig into the past and find lessons for the present.
One of the faith lessons for us is that God is the potter and we're the clay. And even if our lives are broken, like these vessels are, God told Jeremiah, after he told him to go to Shiloh and see what he had done, he told him to go to the potter's house and look at a flawed vessel and see how the potter puts it back on the wheel and works out the imperfections. So my faith lesson is this, that yes, we're imperfect, but if we'll allow God, he wants to put us on his potter's wheel and he wants to make us a vessel of honor.
Stripling often cites Psalm 102 that says, "O Zion, your servants take delight in its stones and favor its dust."
Ultimately, Chris, if the Bible is true, then the God of the Bible has a moral claim on our lives. And as we establish the veracity of the biblical text, I hope that everyone watching will just think about that God loves us and he has a moral claim on our lives.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Shiloh, Biblical Samaria.
Coming up, the latest music offerings from 14-time Grammy Award winner Kirk Franklin. Stay with us.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com. Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment, you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place, from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
And welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. The name Kirk Franklin is pretty much synonymous with gospel music hits. Fans have been waiting quite a while for his next project, and it's out now. We got a sneak peek in this week's Studio 5. Take a look.
Yeah, it's dark right now, but I still see the light. Come on!
14-time Grammy winner Kirk Franklin releases his much-anticipated new album, Long Live Love. He sits down with Studio 5 just before the music drops. Do you have a prayer or wish for the new project?
Yo, man, that is a brilliant question. Yes. I have a prayer that I've written out.
And you can hear that prayer as well as the full interview right here on the CBN News Channel at 9:30 if you tune into Studio 5. We've got lots more in the show as well. Well, it is time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is freedom. Get this, true freedom is not free. It costs. But here's the good news. Jesus paid the price at Calvary. With the price paid, it is now a gift to you and me. All we need to do is open our hearts and receive it. With that word, I encourage you to make today a wonderful Wednesday and a great rest of the week. That is going to do it for this first edition of CBN NewsWatch. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can always get more of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. You can also now watch CBN News programs throughout the day on the CBN News Channel. We would love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing us. The address is newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Again, make it a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you right back here. Come tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.